Before this story unfolds, let me ask you something. Have you ever gone back to a place that once felt like home, only to discover it doesn't feel the same anymore? Have you ever stood in a quiet room filled with memories and felt comfort and emptiness at the same time? If you're drawn to slow, emotional, real-life-inspired stories about love, loss, family, and second chances, then you're in the right place. Take a moment to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and if this story touches you, leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that may need them. Now take a slow breath. This story moves gently. It doesn't rush. It unfolds the way real life does, quietly. Sophia Bennett arrived from Chicago on a dull, overcast afternoon. The clouds hung low, thick and heavy, as though the sky itself carried sorrow. She had returned for one reason only, the funeral. She told herself the visit would be brief. She would help her father manage the arrangements, sort through whatever needed organizing, offer polite condolences to neighbors who still remembered her as the ambitious teenager who once couldn't wait to leave town. Then she would return to her carefully structured life. That's what responsible adults do, she reminded herself. They show up. They do what's necessary. Then they move forward. But the moment Sophia stepped inside the house, still holding her coat over her arm, something inside her shifted. The scent was familiar. A mix of old timber, faded rose perfume, and freshly brewed tea. It was the same house. And yet it felt different. Quieter. Emptier. Her father, Thomas Bennett, stood near the staircase. His posture seemed smaller somehow, not fragile, just tired. His face showed the kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. His eyes were rimmed with red, not only from tears, but from the long nights that follow loss. When he saw her, he gave a careful smile. "You're home," he said softly. "Not you made it. Not you're here. Home." Sophia swallowed and stepped forward. They embraced. The hug lasted longer than either expected. No words were needed. The days after the funeral blurred together. Neighbors filled the house with homemade meals and quiet sympathy. They spoke gently about her mother, her patience, her soft laughter, her strength that never demanded attention. Sophia nodded at the right times. She thanked them. She smiled when required. But everything felt distant, as if she were watching it happen from behind glass. At night, she lay awake in her old bedroom, staring at the ceiling that once held glow-in-the-dark stars and teenage dreams. The house creaked softly, settling into silence. She wondered how a place could feel so full of memories and yet so painfully empty. On the third evening, Thomas asked her to sit with him in the kitchen. Rain tapped steadily against the windows. The overhead light felt too bright, but neither of them moved to dim it. A small box rested on the table between them. "I've been thinking," he began quietly. "I don't want to stay here alone. Not right now." The words were simple, but heavy. He wasn't asking for financial help. He wasn't asking her to repair anything. He was asking her to share the quiet. To sit beside him when grief arrived unexpectedly. Sophia didn't answer immediately. Chicago still existed. Her job. Her apartment. The independent life she had built carefully, brick by brick. "Just for a while," he added quickly. "Not forever." The following days were filled with small tasks. Sophia organized paperwork. Sorted unopened mail. Donated clothes. She folded her mother's sweaters slowly, running her hands across the fabric as if touch alone could preserve what was gone. Thomas paused every time he reached for his wife's favorite cup. He lingered by the garden she once tended. More than once, he almost called her name out loud. Sophia began to understand something. Grief doesn't always shout. Sometimes it lives in pauses. In unfinished sentences. In empty chairs. And every time it surfaced, she stayed. One afternoon, Sophia climbed into the attic. Dust drifted through beams of sunlight, turning the air golden and still. She opened old storage boxes carefully, holiday ornaments, photo albums, forgotten keepsakes. Then she found a bundle of letters tied with thin blue ribbon. They were written decades earlier, notes her mother had sent to her father before they married. Sophia sat cross-legged on the wooden floor and began reading. The letters were full of hope. Playful promises. Quiet dreams of a future they hadn't yet built. She carried them downstairs. Thomas froze when he saw them. Without speaking, they sat together and read. And in that shared silence, something shifted. The house no longer felt hollow. It felt connected to the past, to love, to each other. Around that time, Daniel Hayes reappeared in Sophia's life, an old friend who had also returned to town after a broken engagement. He became a steady presence. A message each morning. A casual walk through familiar streets. Coffee at the corner cafe. He didn't rush her. Didn't pry into wounds she wasn't ready to expose. He listened, really listened. Two people carrying different kinds of heartbreak, walking side by side. Evenings were harder for Thomas. One night, under the dim living room lamp, he finally spoke what had been buried beneath silence. "I was afraid of losing you too." Sophia felt the weight of that truth. His request for her to stay had never been about obligation. It had been about love. Gradually, she noticed small changes within herself. The way she smiled when Daniel's name appeared on her phone. The warmth returning to spaces grief once occupied. The way laughter began to echo softly in the kitchen again. Weeks passed. The back porch, half finished for months, was finally complete. One evening, Sophia and her father sat outside with tea, watching the sun sink gently behind distant hills. It felt peaceful. But she knew peace didn't erase responsibility. Chicago was still there. Her career. Her apartment. The life waiting for her return. She couldn't ignore it forever. One rainy afternoon, Sophia sat alone on the porch steps, watching droplets race down the wooden railing. Daniel approached with an umbrella. He sat beside her without speaking. After a moment, he reached for her hand, not possessively, not urgently, just enough. And in that quiet gesture, something became clear. Staying didn't mean abandoning her future. Leaving didn't mean abandoning her father. Home was no longer just a place. It was a choice. A balance. A decision about how to live, not where. And for the first time since she had arrived beneath that heavy gray sky, Sophia felt something steady inside her. Not certainty. Not final answers. But the understanding that love, whether between parent and child, or between two wounded hearts, wasn't about holding on tightly. It was about choosing, again and again, to stay connected. Even when life moves forward.